if years from now there's a theater textbook and kids have to study this textbook to learn theater, and there's a rule with your name on it, what is that rule and why? What is a rule you would want kids in the future to know from you, and why do you want them to know that?
A short. Something short.
Whatever comes to mind.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's such a deep, profound question. I'm thinking about it. But I know, I'm like, deep. It's deep. I think for me.
One of the things we do in our interviews is we have a series of questions that we ask everybody. But since we have a bit more people in the room, we're not going to ask all 5 of our questions, because then we could be here all day. They're very open-ended. But our one question that we love to ask, and we've gotten so many different answers from it, is if years from now there's a theater textbook and kids have to study this textbook to learn theater, and there's a rule with your name on it, what is that rule and why? What is a rule you would want kids in the future to know from you, and why do you want them to know that?
I think for me it's just that there's enough space, to tell your story. There's just enough space, and theater is not a black box. You know what I mean? It's just enough space. It's enough space. There is actually enough space to tell your story. And there's always somebody willing to listen and to receive, yeah, that's for me.
Não sei, né? Vai ser, para mim vai ser muito lindo. Meu filho, meu neto tá vendo meu nome.
Right? It's deep. It's like, oh my God, I didn't think that far.
We have stumped quite a few people with this question.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, like, even if I'm saying there's enough space, but also to say, and if that space is not there, you create it yourself, like now I'm processing it to say there's enough space, but if that space is not enough and it's not there, you need to take responsibility of creating that space for yourself as a performer, as a writer, as a theater maker, as a storyteller, as because you want to be heard, and maybe, and especially with the politics and the dynamics of censorship, I mean, I shared a story with Rudolfo in one of our sessions that, I was, for a while in South Africa, I was blacklisted because I did this huge play about the ex-president who had raped somebody who was like a niece. And it was at the biggest theater in the continent and in South Africa. And that was one of the biggest cases in our history when it comes to, sexual violence and rape and all that. And one of my friends did a very profound book about that as a journalist. And I read the book, and then I saw lines, I saw monologues, I heard dialogues, and at first I thought it was a poem, but it was like, oh no, this is a play. And I did that play, and for almost 2 years, I couldn't find work. And I had to rethink how I create space for myself. And only now, just before the lockdown, things were starting to, I was like, okay, I'm back. I'm back after 2 years of being sort of blacklisted. So there's censorships and politics. And for me, it's that this digital space, and I think most of my colleagues have said it, that it allows you to also realize that if there are gatekeepers, they can't keep you silent, They can't mute you, because now the world will still get to hear your voice, and you will be able to share something that gives you nightmares, so that you can dream yourself out of the nightmare and find your freedom. So enough space, if not, create it.
Yeah, and those gatekeepers are everywhere, right? They're everywhere. They're in your theater companies that you're members of. They're where you think allies are. There's so many places that they're at. So if I heard your question right, it's what rule, like guideline type of thing. Mm-hmm. So I would say it has something to do with that, which is that theater is a collaborative process. And if you go into it with a mindset of trying to find ways to provide and create opportunities for others, your own opportunities will come.
I love that.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So much so.
Yes. I would say that we say that in The Art of Facing Fear. I think we were afraid, we were in panic, and theater was frozen. And it's very interesting because when you read the title of the play, The Art of Facing Fear, it's not only about the pandemic, but also about our fear as artists to be frozen as well, you know, like, so we were facing the fear of Zoom as well as the pandemic when we started, you know, like, and when we speak about it in the show, and we say that fear is not only what is not facing fear or being brave is not a question of not having fear, but facing this fear and struggling against it and fighting it, but looking at its face and finding your own power to overcome it. So the art of facing fear is the art of being bold, courageous, and theater needs it in some specific historical moments, during wars, during pandemics. So theater makers, they have to be courageous, brave in these moments. They should not give up. Eduardo?
Oi, eu não entendi.
A pergunta é, qual é a dica que você dá para as novas gerações?
Que arrisquem, né? Porque sem arriscar você não consegue absolutamente nada. Ficar enclausurado em casa, sabe? Pensando o que vai ser o futuro é sonho, o futuro é subjetivo, o futuro a gente não sabe o que vai acontecer, então tem que fazer agora, né? Então eu acho que tem que botar a cara para bater, né? A gente tem que experimentar, não ter medo de experimentar, né? A partir do momento que você tem medo, pronto, você se fecha para tudo e acabou, né? Se arriscando, o risco também é erro, e o erro é sabedoria. Com o erro a gente aprende. Então, se você tiver medo de errar, você não vai chegar ao futuro que você quer. Então, eu acho que tem que fazer, tem que arriscar, tem que botar a cara para bater.
Okay, so, here. So, Edu said that we have to take a risk, because if you don't take the risk, you can get nothing. If you stay at your home just thinking about what's going to be the future is a dream, and we don't know what's going to happen. So you have to do something and do it right now. You have to face it, you know, and to experiment things. You don't have to be afraid of doing things, of experimenting things. And from the moment that you are afraid and you don't do anything, nothing will happen. So you have to take the risk, and, you know, making mistakes, it's, well, risk is you can also make mistakes by taking risks, and making mistakes, it's also a way of knowledge, because you learn from it. So if you're afraid of making mistakes, you are not going to the future. Nothing is going to happen. So you have to take the risk.
Love that. So true. So much truth. You all have been beautiful and wonderful, and I am so glad to have gotten to know you for the short bit of time. What we always tell people is, please, we keep in touch with everybody. Be our friend on social media if you can. If you're not on social media, just keep in touch in other ways. Tell us everything you're doing, no matter how small. No, like you might think, oh, I don't want to invite the reviewers to a 10-minute play. Invite us to the 10-minute play. We want to see everything. To us, it's all beautiful. It's all important. You know, when we first started, and we still do, we review everything from middle school theater to the most professional theater out there, because to us, it's all beautiful and all important. So keep in touch. Tell us everything. Tell us what you're doing. I hate to use the term bug us, because you won't bug us. You can't bother us. You can't annoy us. We are immune to being annoyed. You know, we want to hear it all, and it's so important. And we appreciate all that you guys have done creating this moment in theater, because you guys really did, in a lot of ways, connect some things for us that we're going to work on when we start. Well, we started writing the book, but you brought something new to the table that we hadn't even thought about. We thought about bringing people together on a small scale. We didn't think of how global this moment was, and it is, and it's so global. And it's, you know, so if two random people from New Jersey can meet people from Brazil and California, well, from Alaska in California, and from South Africa, to connect with you guys, then this is going to change the world. You know, it already has in some ways, but this is definitely going to do even more.
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate you. You are important. You're important to us, and you are now part of our universe. So please stay that way. You know, keep connected. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
very
care
much.
of yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you
Obrigado.
very much.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
you.
Bye. Obrigado, Jana.
Obrigado, Edu.
Hey guys, if you like what we just did, there's going to be plenty more coming up. Please like, comment, subscribe. Our Venmo is in the description. Please support us if you can. Our cats need the money.